Okay, good afternoon, students. Are you hearing my voice? Okay, right. Good afternoon. Yesterday we completed the decline of Mughal Empire, and today we going to see about the East India Company. Okay, before going to the East India companies, about the East India companies, we have to finish the a brief political history of the later Mughals. But in next class, we will see about the brief history of the later Mughals. Okay, today we will going to complete about the monopoly of the East India Company. Okay, so for this we are giving a title called as the from trade to the territory. Okay, from trade to the territory, the company establishes power in or on Indian territories. Right. So we'll start now. Aurangzeb was the last ruler of the imperial Mughals. Um, then many later Mughals have ruled, but they are not that much cap. Okay, so Aurangzeb was the last powerful Mughal ruler. He established control over very large part of territory, very large part of territory that is now known as India. After his death in 1707, many Mughal governors, nothing but the Subadars, okay, and big Jamindars began asserting their authority and establishing regional kingdoms. As a powerful regional kingdoms emerged in various parts of India, Delhi could no longer function as a effective center. By the second half of the 18th century, however, a new power was emerging on the political origin, nothing but the British. Okay, so did you know that the British originally came as a small trading company and were reluctant to acquire the whole Indian territories? How then did they come to be masters of a vast empire? Okay, so we'll see now. Okay, after Aurangzeb, there was no powerful Mughal ruler, but Mughal emperors continued to be by symbolically important. In fact, when a massive rebellion against British rule broke out in 1857, Bahadur Shah Jafar, at that time, Bahadur Shah Jafar was the ruler of Mughal territories. Okay, so he was seen as the natural ruler. Okay, he was not that much a capable ruler at that time. Once the revolt was put down by the company, Bahadur Shah Jafar was forced to leave the kingdom and his sons were shot in cold blood. Okay, they were shot dead by the British officials. You are well known, right? So after 1857 revolt, these the whole Mughal territories were which were captured by the British and Mughal ruler kept as a nominal head at that time. Okay, the original ruling was comes under the hands of the British. Okay, so in 1600, the East India Company acquired a charter from the ruler of England, Queen Elizabeth I, granting it the sole right to trade with East. This means that no other trading group in England, no other nation of European nation in England could compete with the East India Company. Okay, not only from England or the whole European nations. not compete with this East India Company. Okay, with this charter, the company could venture across the oceans looking for new lands from which it could buy goods at a cheap rate. Okay, so and carry them back to Europe to sell at higher prices. The company did not have to fear competition from the English trading companies. Okay, so the mercantile trading companies in those days made profit primarily by excluding competition, so that they could buy cheap and sell at very dear rates. Okay, so sell at dear rates in the sense a cheaper rate. Okay, so the royal charter, however, could not prevent other European powers from entering the eastern markets. By the time the first English ships sailed down the west coast of Africa, okay, so around the Cape of Good Hope, and crossed the Indian Ocean. The Portuguese had already established their presence in the western coast of India and had their base in Goa. Okay, so not only Goa, in all the western coast of India. Okay, in fact, it was Vasco da Gama, a Portuguese explorer, who had discovered the sea route to India in 1898. You are already aware. Okay, so by the early 17th century, the Dutch too were exploring the possibilities of trade in Indian Ocean. Okay, so before the Britishers, the Dutch also entered in India. Soon the French traders arrived in the scene. Okay, so then the French also entered the before British entered in Indian territories. Okay, so the problem was that all companies were interested in buying the same things. The fine qualities of cotton, silk produced in India had a big market in Europe. Pepper, cloves, cardamom, and cinnamon too were in great demand. Competition amongst the European companies inevitably pushed up the prices at which these goods could be purchased, and this reduced the profits that could be earned. The only way the trading companies could flourish was by eliminating rival competitors. The urge to secure markets therefore led to fierce battles between the trading companies also. Okay, so there are certain battles also taken place between these European nations regarding the trade with India. Okay, so through the 17th and 18th centuries, they regularly sank each other's ships. Okay, blockaded routes and prevented rival ships from moving with the supplies of goods. Uh, Trade was carried on with arms, and trading posts were protected through the fortification. Okay, so this effort to fortify settlements and carry on profitable trade also led to intense conflicts with the local rulers. Okay, there are also you are well aware that many conflicts has taken place with the local rulers in the form of various battles and wars. Okay, so you are well aware that the Carnatic wars and Mysore wars and Maratha wars also important battles which fought by these Britishers. Okay, so trade also led to intense conflict with the local rulers. The company therefore found it difficult to separate trade from politics. Okay, so it's very hard to separate the politics with the trade. It's a facing a problem by the company at that time. Okay, so we'll see how the East India Company began trade in Bengal. Okay, the first English factory was set up on the banks of River Hooghly in 1658. But the settlement is the Surat. Okay, so we are talking here about only the English factory. Okay, so factory is different from the settlement, right? So the first English factory was set up on the banks of River Hooghly in 1651. This was the base from which the company's traders, known at that time as the factors, operated. Okay, so the factory had a warehouse where goods for export were stored, and it had offices. It had officers where company offices, where company officials sat. As trade expanded, the company persuaded merchants and traders to come and settle near the fact. By 1696, it began building a fort around the settlement. 2 years later, it bribed Mughal officials into giving the company Jamindari rights over three villages. Okay, so on this was the Kalikata, which later grew into the city Calcutta or Kolkata as it's known as today. Okay, so it also persuaded the Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb to issue a permit granting the company the right to trade uh, uh, trade granting companies the right to trade duty free. Okay, so the company tried continuously to press more concessions and manipulate existing privileges. Aurangzeb Farman, for instance, had granted only the company the right to trade duty free. Okay, but officials of the company who were carrying on private trade the site site were expected to pay duty. This they refused to pay, causing an enormous loss of revenue for Bengal. Okay, so how could the Nawab of Bengal, Murshid Quli Khan, not protest? Okay, so it's not protested by the Murshid Quli Khan at that Nawab at that time. Okay, so throughout the early 18th century, the conflicts between the company and Nawabs of Bengal intensified. After death of Aurangzeb, the Bengal Nawab asserted their power and autonomy as other regional powers were doing at that time. Okay, Murshid Quli Khan was followed by Aliwardi Khan and then Shiraud Dawla as the Nawab of Bengal. Okay, each one of them was a strong ruler. They refused to grant the company concessions, demanded large tributes for the company's right to trade, denied it any right to mint coins, and stopped it from extending its fortifications, accusing the company's deceit. They claimed that the company was depriving the Bengal government of huge amounts of revenue and undermining the authority of the Nawab. It was refusing to pay taxes, writing disrespectable letters, and trying to humiliate the Nawab and his officials. So the company, on its part, declared that unjust demands of the local officials were running the trade of the company, and trade could flourish only if the duties were removed. It was also convinced that to expand trade, it had to enlarge its settlements, buy up villages, and rebuild its force. The conflicts led to confrontations and finally culminated in the famous Battle of Plassey. Okay, you are aware that the Battle of Plassey, which taken place in 1757. Okay, so between the British and Siraj Dawla. Okay, so when the Aliwardi Khan died in 1756, Siraj Dawla became the Nawab of Bengal. The company was worried about his power and key on a puppet ruler who could willingly give trade concessions or other privileges. Okay, so the company is seeking about a puppet ruler, but Siraj Dawla somewhat a able one, right? So it tried, though without success, to help one of Siraj Dawla's rivals became the Nawab. And infuriated, Siraj Dawla asked the company to stop meddling in the political affairs of his domination, stop fortification, and pay the revenues. Okay, so after negotiations failed, the Nawab marched with 30,000 soldiers to English factory at Kasim Bazar, captured the company officials. Okay, so locked the warehouse, disarmed the all Englishmen, and blockaded English ships. Then he marched to Kolkata to establish control over company's port there. On hearing the news, fall of Calcutta, company officials in Madras sent forces under the command of Robert Clive, reinforced by naval fleets. Prolonged negotiations with the Nawab followed. Finally, in 1757, Robert Clive led the company's army against Siraj at Plassey. One of the main reasons for the defeat of Nawab was the forces led by Mir Jafar, one of the Siraj commanders, never fought the battle. Okay, Clive had managed to secure his support by promising to make him Nawab after crushing Siraj. Okay, so the Battle of Plassey became famous. It was the first major victory the company won in India. Okay, so after after successful victory at Battle of Plassey, okay, so the company which moving very cleverly in and also involving in the political affairs of Indian territories. Okay, so after defeat at Plassey, Siraj-Dowlah was assassinated and Mir Jafar made the Nawab. The company was still unwilling to take over the responsibility of administration. Its prime objective was the expansion of trade. If this could be done without conquest, through the help of local rulers who were willing to grant privileges, then territories need not to taken over the directly. Okay, soon the company discovered that this was rather difficult. Okay, so for even the puppet Nawabs were not always as helpful as the company wanted them to be. After all, they had to maintain a basic appearance of dignity and sovereignty if they wanted respect from their subjects. Okay, so what could be the company do? When the Mir Jafar protested, the company deposed him and installed Mir Qasim in his place. Okay, so again, in the place of Mir Jafar, Mir Qasim ascended the throne. When Mir Qasim complained, he in turn was defeated in a battle fought at Buxar. Okay, so Battle of Buxar taken place in 1764. A battle fought at Buxar. Okay, driven out the Bengal, and Mir Jafar was reinstalled. Okay, so after Mir Qasim, again the Mir Jafar was ascended to the throne. Okay, the Nawab had paid